for my story of starter school, it actually starts way back at Bradley University in scenic Peoria, Illinois. At Bradley, I majored in international business, and during the course of my studies, I actually came down with a debilitating condition. So I went to the student health center and told them my symptoms, and they said, you know, this is something that a lot of college students come down with. There's no cure for it, and more than likely you're going to have to live with it for the rest of your life. What is this mystery disease? The travel bug. Most of you out there probably have it. And yeah, in the span of 3 years I was at Bradley, I actually did 4 study abroads, one in Paris, one in London, one in Mexico, and one in China. And basically after the first one, I realized that I obviously love to travel. Unfortunately, my love of travel was surpassed by my love of not having to live at home with my parents, so I did as most people do and got a job in corporate America at downtown at a bank. And in the process of my job, I realized that basically it is actually like Office Space. There are things like TPS reports, and it really isn't as funny as it is in the movies when you have to do it yourself. So after about 2 years, I had a decision to make. Did I want to continue down this path, get an MBA, and then come back and do it, or did I want to try and do something else? So by sheer coincidence, actually, I came across this book by Tim Ferriss called 4-Hour Workweek. So if you're not familiar with it, the basic premise is that basically everyone is an expert in something, and you can use that expertise to turn into a new career. So it really took me a while, almost 1 year, to determine what am I expert in at 22. And the one thing I realized is that after my diagnosis of travel bug, that after college, I wanted to travel more, but like most people, I didn't have any money. So what I did is I started learning about the intricacies of frequent flyer programs, how to earn miles really cheaply, how to travel around the world and redeem those miles. And I'd bother my friends by telling them, hey, if you get this credit card, you can travel to Europe for free next year. And they obviously got pretty annoyed by that pretty quickly. But with doing that, I basically learned how to use frequent flyer miles. So on January 1st, 2012, I decided to start my blog called frequentflyeruniversity.com. And it basically shared how to use frequent flyer miles and how to redeem them. And from 2 years, basically it went from 0 readers to almost 20,000 a month now. And it actually allowed me to quit my real job and travel around the world. So for the last 2 years, I've basically been traveling around the world, redeeming my miles and telling people how they can earn miles and redeem them so they can basically copy it. And while it was great to do that, and it was a great experience to travel the world, obviously traveling by yourself gets pretty lonely. And on top of that, it's not really a fulfilling job. So by coincidence, I was interested in startups, but I realized I didn't really have a skill set. My skill set was writing blog posts, but most startups don't need that. They need coders, they need designers, stuff like that. So I was at Technori Pitch on June 25th, 2013 last year, and I saw Neil pitch his startup. And obviously that was Starter School. And the moment he started talking about the program, and how it would give normal people the tools to design what they wanted to do, I knew it was for me, and I said, sign me up. So I signed up. But my problem, of course, was that now I was starting to learn a skill set, but what did I want to apply it to? So in my case, thankfully, I was lucky that I did not spend another year trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I knew it was something travel related. So I thought about, as a traveler, what was the worst part about traveling? And of course, I realized that flying over 100,000 miles a year, I hadn't really gotten very good at booking these trips. And it wasn't because it was difficult, it was that the process was not very efficient. And of course, you guys have probably felt this, that planning a trip is difficult. There's no easy way to share flights that you find on Kayaking United with the other people you're traveling with. There's no central place to do it. And of course, all these trips have been taken before, but you can't tap into this big community. So what I came up with is GitHub for travel, and it's called Tripsy. And if you're not familiar with GitHub, it's what we use here at Starter School, and it's what most coders use, and basically allows you to collaborate on sharing code. So I want to take those principles and apply that to travel. So in the first iteration, as soon as we got started learning how to code, I made this, and this is just a basic form that allows you to input your flight details, and then it would display it like this, and then once the itinerary was completed, you could actually copy it and then use it. And then what I realized from that is that, one, people do not like to obviously manually enter all this stuff in, and two, that there had to be an easier way to do it. So in the second iteration, I came up with this idea for a bookmarklet. And this bookmarklet basically would allow you to go onto any travel site and just select what you want and it would save it. So this is a mock-up of it on Kayak. And while in theory that was, again, a good idea, unfortunately people don't really know what a bookmarklet is or how it works. So now in the third and current iteration, we actually came up with a Chrome extension, and thankfully people do know what browser extensions are. And just like the bookmarklet, you can go onto any travel website, it automatically loads, and then it just injects our TripC button on top of the select, and then you can save it. And once you save it, then it gets transported here, where you can see it in a nice Hipmunk style timeline. So if you're planning a trip this summer, all you have to do is install the extension. You can go onto any of your normal travel websites, and then just save it, and everything now is in one central organized place. So I think finally, after the third iteration, it's going pretty well, and we're starting to get some steam. Last week I was invited out to Seattle to pitch for TechCrunch Seattle in front of 1,000 people, which was pretty cool. And because of that, it got us on the radar of American Airlines and TripIt, who called us and said, we're interested in what you guys are doing. Maybe there's a way you can integrate with our services. As for what I've learned, the first thing is that if you build an app, more than likely no one's going to use it at first. And you know, there's this fallacy out there that if you just build an app, we'll call it Yo for right now, that if you build it, magically it'll go viral in a couple months. Facebook will come knocking and say, hey, we want to buy you for $1 billion. You say, absolutely not. They come back with $3 billion. Of course, that is not the reality. And the fact that it's really difficult to get users. But if you can get users, you really should listen to them because they'll tell you exactly what you need to build. And in our case, thankfully, we listened at the first iteration and realized that, okay, no one wants to manually enter the stuff. So we built, of course, this Chrome extension. And then the last one is that you really have to follow your passion. So thankfully, I was diagnosed with my travel bug early in my life, that I was able really to build my lifestyle and career around my passion for travel. And it obviously led me to my blog and now TripC. But because of that, even when I'm having a bad day coding or something doesn't go right, at least I can take solace in the fact that I'm doing something that I'm passionate about. And so for what's next for TripC, we have those opportunities with American Airlines, which is pretty cool, but really I think this quote sums it up best. I don't know where I'm going from here, but I can promise that it won't be boring. And for those of you planning trips this summer or down the line, you should definitely check out TripC because it will make your life much easier. Thank you.